Okay, the way it works is that the different parts of your body have got different emotions or different states, different feelings associated with them, different purposes. Your stomach is the seat of fear, your kidneys is the seat of fight and flight, and the liver is the seat of anger. The spleen is the seat of confidence and things. So all of the different, there are various different parts of your body that have got where different feelings come from. Now, connecting all the different parts of your body, there are energy channels, obviously. It's like the wiring in a car. Okay, you've got the electrical wiring in the car, which connects the starter motor to the engine, to the petrol pump, to the brakes, the lights, and so on. It's exactly the same in the body. And so when you turn the ignition switch on a car, it sends an electrical current down to the starter motor, it starts up the petrol pump, and the engine runs. Okay. Same in the body. There are certain switches on your body, different places on your body. There's one just up in here, for example, that when you touch that switch there, it sends an electrical signal through the energy channel, and in this case, it sends a signal up to the brain, which is connected to your heart. It sends a chemical through your body, which is called collagen. And collagen is the basic chemical that's involved in the healing process of things. And so when the collagen goes up to the brain, it sends a message up to your brain which says, I need to switch on the process of repairing or doing some work to help the heart. You could be broken-hearted. You could have just gone through a relationship. You could have gone through a divorce. But if you activate the switch here, what happens is that it helps to repair a broken heart. And so you don't feel broken-hearted anymore. You just feel, yeah, okay, the situation's still there. It hasn't changed, but you don't have that horrible feeling anymore. That's what the different switches and the programs are, and that's what it's really all about, and that's how it works. So you've got different switches for different conditions that you're going through, and using those switches helps you to deal with those different conditions, either anger, anxiety, fear, lack of confidence, and so on. And there's different switches on your body for doing that. Basically, simply, that's basically how it works. And it makes good sense when you think about it. That's because the sort of pain that these guys are going through is.
So males sort of what sort of age group?
They're males around about, say, 30 to 70. That's pretty broad at this stage. Oh, he goes in and out of sort of, one day he's up, the next day he's down. Out of work, can't focus, in a bad relationship. Shit, where do you start? Where do you stop? It's just all blowing up in his face. That's basically that.
So maybe feels like
nothing's going right, no, and he's suffering from feeling depressed. He doesn't trust people. Yeah. He's got no trust.
Maybe trapped.
He feels trapped, definitely, and he doesn't know where to go. So his foggy brain is another thing that is like he can't make decisions, can't make up his mind what to do. Starts doing something and then ends up doing something else totally different. There's a real self-sabotaging pattern going on there where he just believes that he's not worth anything. He feels unworthy, not good enough. Don't keep making the same mistakes all the time. Yeah. And making the wrong judgments and the wrong mistakes all the time. Yeah. For example, I know this guy that he needed a car desperately, right? And so he talked someone into lending him some money. So they went out to shopping for the car, and he ended up, against the advice of the guy that was lending him the money, he actually ended up buying a car which was unroadworthy and which wasn't registered. And he drove away illegally, which is mistake number one. And then secondly, he found out that the red light came on. and then found out that the timing chain was stuck. So he's up to another $2,000, right? Now that's not making a good judgment, right? So he'll stop making those sorts of decisions and those sorts of judgments because he sort of self-sabotaged himself. You know what I mean? And that's a common thing that occurs with people that are suffering from anger and things like that. So when they're going through that state, it's where they can't trust people that are offering to give them some help. And whether it's they're mistrusting themselves or their own ability to make the changes or to take the help and to work it, and that's probably a lack of, that's a fear in there, a fear of change, a fear of becoming different. They're so used to feeling down and depressed and whatever, the world's against them, all the rest of it, you know. The idea of taking on, of changing is like it's just too big out there. It's fearful. So helping people to have the courage to change, I suppose, or the courage to get better, in a way. That's a part of this state here, this B state, where I want to take them to, where I want to get them to. That makes sense?
Yep.
Yeah? Okay, let me explain it to you this way. There are basically 7 different types of toxins that cause people to think negatively, think depression, think whatever, you know. One of the first ones of those is what they were conditioned to think when they were a child, what was said to them as a child. Okay, so that conditions the way they think. There's another one which is what happens to them through their life, a trauma event. Somebody that was forced to go to Vietnam War, for example, and had atrocities done to them and whatever. So that's events or whatever, you know. Then there's other ones which is the toxins in the food that you're actually eating and the chemicals that are in the food that you're eating that affects toxicity, which affects your mental health because it's affecting your physical health, and your physical health is affecting your mental health. And then there's another one is all the electronic stuff that's around you and the world itself, you know. It's a pretty traumatic place at the moment. You've got world leaders talking about, discussing whether they're going to throw atom bombs at one another or they're going to fall into bed with one another. And so all of that in the background is weighing people down as well, and affecting people that are going through this sort of stuff. And they feel it. And then you've got, it's almost like a religious, different religious things. You know, if people believe in, if they're emphatic about their religious belief, whatever that is, whether it's Christian, Mohammedanism, or whatever, it doesn't really matter. It's that sort of toxicity in them as well. So there's all those levels of things really in reality that, and the one I'm looking for up here is almost like that sums all that up. It's not lifestyle. It's not. How can I say it? It's almost genetic, in a sense, and it's hereditary stuff that people have to work through as well. Stuff they picked up from somewhere.
I would just sort of say toxins. Would that be a good name to use?
Well, toxins to most people is just poisons. It's toxins, you know. Well, toxins is one, and then I think there's another one which is hereditary as well. So there needs to be another one which is genetic. The people who've got genetic stuff in them. So if I was to talk about the genetic situation, what happens there is that basically what happens when your cells are first created from fertilising the egg, from your father fertilising the egg and going down through and then generating a cell inside the mother and building up from there. There's certain elements of information that are required in that cell in order for it to start to generate a lifestyle. And where it gets that information from is the information from the parents, from the knowledge of the parents and the genetics of the genetic code of the parents. And that goes into a part of the cell which is almost like a premoidal. It's not really a brain, but it's like a prime information, cellular basic information. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So it gives you the foundation to start building the life on. Okay. And then that gets built into every single cell that's created. It starts with the first cell, and then every other cell that gets recreated from there. And as you keep recreating the cellular structure, eventually the body gets built, and everything's working okay, and all the cells in there have got that inherent genetic memory in there. And so, because we're recreating our cells every 3 years, roughly, every 3, 4, 5 years, whatever it is, we're recreating the same cell with the same old memory in it, with the same old pattern in it, with the same old way of doing something in it. So you just keep doing the same old thing. Until you actually start to recreate different cells, and so then you can start to make different choices. But prior to that, you really can't make any other choices. You just do it comes automatically. Because the way your body is constructed and the way your brain is constructed, the way your brain-body connection works is you've got parts of your brain which want to make you keep doing the same old thing all the time. It's called the amygdala and the basal ganglia, the two parts of the brain which makes you want to do things repetitively all the time. It's really good for when you drive the car to work and you get to work and you find, I don't ever remember driving the car to work, okay? But that's because it's your memory. That's that part of your brain, which is great. However, when you want to change it, it's difficult. So there's a process involved in being able to help people to change that way of doing things, which is a different part of the program altogether. Well, it's creating new pathways in the subconscious mind. It's creating new neurological pathways of thinking, new patterns of thinking in the subconscious mind. So that's a neurology of things. The more you think about something, the more you keep going down the same old pathway, and it's like your thoughts actually go down a pathway in the brain. You can imagine walking down through a forest. You walk down through the forest, and the more you walk down the pathway, the more you get used to it, and the more comfortable it feels. Okay. But when you want to go start, and that pathway leads to an end of some sort in the forest. Now, if you want to go down to find a different place in the forest, you need to go down a different pathway. So in order to do that, you need to sort of put what we call the gatekeeper part of your brain is the basal ganglia. It wants to go down the old pathway. So you need to put your basal ganglia basically to sleep, so that then you can create a new pathway, and you can start going down a different way of thinking. And then after you create the new pathway or the new alternative way of thinking in your brain, then you've got a choice. Then the next time that situation comes up for you, instead of going down the same old pathway, you've got a choice to go down a different pathway. Hypnotherapy is a really good way to do that. You have to be very careful though. You can't hypnotise people over the phone or over the thing like that, But the way that we do it, we actually use what we call hypnotic coaching, and that's using words, the way things are written. It helps people to reframe their thinking patterns. Yeah. And so the way, we structure it so that way. Yeah. Well, how diet affects your mood is that there's a connection between your gut and your brain, obviously. Okay. So when you take stuff into your gut, like certain substances like sugar, for example, and sugar can come in any form, like alcohol. It can come in the form of carbohydrates, eating chips or pies, with pastry on them and things like that. Then what happens is that the sugar that comes out of it, the sugar starts, You know how fungus grows. You know how fungus grows. The more you feed a fungus with bad bacteria, it grows more. Well, sugar is like that. Sugar actually encourages the fungus to grow inside of your stomach, and it's called candida. And that fungus is got a mentality in it. It wants to always keep improving and growing and sustaining itself. So it wants more sugar all the time. So it actually sends out tentacles which go up into your brain, and those tentacles that go up into your brain, what they do, they have chemicals in them which triggers a part of your brain that's making the decision of whether you should eat something that's good for you or something that's bad for you. Okay? Now, we know that when you eat something or drink alcohol, we know it's bad for you because you can feel it, but we still do it. And the reason why we do it is because that chemical has actually severed the connection between the synapses, which is the way that we think, is that your thoughts, like a little electrical current, goes down a pathway and it jumps across a gap, right? It's like you can imagine electrons jumping across the gap. That's called a synapses, or synapse, or what do you say, synapses. Okay, so the more messages that get across, it changes the pathway of the process of thinking down underneath it. Yeah, makes sense? Okay. Right, well, what the chemical does, it breaks that connection between this part of your brain, which is a rational, good thinking part of your brain, sensible part, and the other part of your brain, which is the addiction part of your brain, which makes you want to have more sugar. And when you take the addiction part of the brain, it makes you feel better at first. It's like eating a bar of chocolate. You feel better at first, or you have a drink. Somebody says to you, "Oh mate, you'll be right, just have another beer, you'll be okay." And so you reach for another drink, and it does, it makes you feel better at first. But then later on it makes you feel a lot worse. So you get foggy brain, alcoholics, a foggy brain. That then starts to upset your liver and your kidneys and your spleen and everything else, which make you feel worse and worse and worse. So in terms of diet, changing your diet is changing your diet so that you stop eating the sorts of foods that aren't good for you and start eating foods that are good for you. And again, that's the same sort of process. You have to learn how to do it. And sometimes you have to convince your wife or your spouse or whatever in order to change the diet that's in the house, the kids and so on, you know. So it's hard sometimes to do that. Yeah, so that process somehow has to happen. And I think the best way to do that is through education, of explaining to guys how it works, what happens, you know. And just giving them examples. Yeah.
So rather than what they're doing, practical examples, obviously cut out alcohol if they can.
Cutting out alcohol is a bit radical at times. What the best thing is to do is to cut down on the amount of alcohol that you drink. But one of the really good things to do is just stop taking sugar in your coffee. Get used to drinking coffee without sugar in it, or tea without sugar in it. That's a really good place to start, and that's a pretty hard place for most people to start. But yeah, that's a really good start. And the other thing, the other most important thing is you've got to take some tablets. There's some herbal tablets that I can put people onto, which actually break down the shell around the outside of the fungus. And when the protective shell of the fungus gets broken down, then your own immune system can get in there and attack it. And so it starts to actually kill off the fungus. So the fungus is not sending the messages out to your brain all the time to eat more sugar. Like I used to walk past a cake shop, and it could be 10 o'clock in the morning, half an hour after I've just had breakfast. I walk past a cake shop and say, "Oh, I'm hungry, I need a cake, I need a pie, I need something like this." And my missus used to say to me, "What are you talking about? You just had breakfast half an hour ago, you know, you can't be hungry." And I said, "No, I'm still hungry." And so you go in there and you end up buying a pie or a pasty or whatever it is. That's because the fungus is actually making you want to do that. It's not because of your head, it's the fungus making you want to do that. So when you kill off the fungus, you can actually walk past a shop. And you notice after a while, you notice that, hey, I've just walked past that cake shop and I didn't stop and get anything to eat. Wow, that's amazing. you know, and that's the way it happens. It's not forcing yourself or using willpower. It's taking away the thing that's really causing you to want to eat junk food in a way. Yeah? Make sense? Cool. So, and teaching, I mean, people can write to me and get recipes if they want to. I'm happy to provide them with recipes or give them a shopping list. You know, what to buy, what's good to buy, how to cook with different foods. This is a product that we can help people with, you know, as well. Yeah. And I think that's the only way it's going to work. Yeah, courage, having the courage to change, having the courage to make a change in your life is a big one for just about every guy. And the reason why that is because the way a man's life works is that right from as you're a child and you're starting to grow up as a young boy, you're starting to work out where you fit into the men's world. You know, like you go through different sports and things like that, so you're figuring out, you know, how physical you are, how aggressive you are, whether you're an out there sort of a guy, whether you're an internalising sort of a guy, whatever, what your personality is, how do you want to fit into the world, how do you see yourself as a man or a boy fitting into the world. And so you tend to form a lot of relationships around that. You tend to provide, you build up relationships with mates that are similar to you, that help you and encourage you to be what you think that it is that you really want to be. Whether you're a rough and tumble sort of a guy or an outgoing sports guy, or whether you're a cricketer or a footballer or you play badminton or you cross-dress, for God's sake, I don't know. It's all of those different things. Now, so you build up a relationship of friendships with all these people. When you go down a pathway that leads you to depression or anxiety or having a mental issue, you've already built up a friendship around that. If you were taking drugs, for example, you'd be in a drug culture. All right, let's just take that as an example. If you wanted to stop taking drugs, that means you have to move out of that drug-taking culture completely. So you've got to have the courage to move away from that sort of thing. It really comes from your guts. It's having the guts to make a change. Now, when people say you have to have the guts to make a change, what it really is your guts are holding you back, because your guts have got memory. Your guts have got their own memory cell in them. Everything that you eat, you remember what you've eaten, so that the next time that you eat the same sort of thing, if it's a toxin, then it automatically sends a message up to your brain to deal with the toxin and neutralise it. Well, the trouble is you've got that build up inside of you, and when you want to try and make a change, your guts are wrenching. You've got this gut wrenching feeling inside of you where you feel fearful about making a change. The only way to really deal with that is to rebalance your gut and the microbacteria in your gut, the gut level feelings and so on and things like that. So courage is not really forcing yourself to do things. It's learning how to get rid of what it is that's creating the fear inside of you. That's what courage is really all about. And now the other thing that we've got to remember is that men are hunters. And so we've had to have the courage to go out and chase a wild animal and to be able to kill that animal and bring it home for our family to eat. And we've got to have the courage to be able to do that, or we won't have anything. We won't have anything to eat. So courage for a man is becoming fearsome, and fearsome. It's hiding your fear. It's really hiding your fear and going out and doing it anyway. And when you're trying to make a change in your life, and you're changing your friends, you're changing the way you think, you're changing the way you eat, you're changing the way that you do things and so on, again, that's overcoming that fear of change. And There's a big topic about men's fear and change and courage, but that's just generally speaking. In simple terms, the way the process works is to be able to recognise where the seat of courage really comes from inside your body. Okay? Once you recognise where the seat of courage comes from, it actually comes from your kidneys, and the reason why it comes from your kidneys is that your kidneys are the thing that the kidneys clean out the bad rubbish or the toxins or the poison out of your system. That's what their job is to clean out the kidneys, clean out the toxins, the rubbish, the poisons in your system. When the kidneys are not working properly and they're not cleaning out the poisons that have come into your system, then you end up with poisons in your head. And so the reason for courage coming from your kidneys is that's also your fight or flight syndrome. That's where you get your fight or fight. That's where you get, you're going to be determined enough to stand up and fight that tiger and kill it, or it's going to kill you. If your kidneys aren't working properly because you've been drinking booze or whatever, then you haven't got that fight. You haven't got that courage in you. When you start to fix up those things by rebalancing that part of you and fixing it up, then it's automatically where you don't have that thing that's holding you back from being, you haven't got that thing inside of you that's making you fearful of changing. You haven't got the thing inside of you fearful of mixing with different people, of changing what you do, of getting a new job, of going out for an interview or starting a new business or something like that. It's only when you work through that the courage actually comes, and it's really a lack of fear rather than forcing yourself to be brave. Does that make sense? It's the type of people that you're mixing with, friends, and the type of people that you're mixing with. If you've got friends, for example, that are angry and they get aggro and they want to pick fights all the time, then naturally you're going to be around that sort of environment all the time. So it's going to be really hard to break away from any of that. But more importantly than that, having friends around you that are going to support what you're going through and be able to help you and to encourage you and to lead you into a different way of being. Making yourself with new friends is it's hard sometimes, because you almost need to sort of, until you actually make it, you're sort of almost like faking it. You're faking it, and a lot of guys say you've got to fake it until you make it. And that's true in a sense, is that even though it feels awkward, you're mixing with different people in different societies, in different circumstances and so on. Yeah, you feel naked. You feel out of place to begin with. However, the more you do it, the more you get used to it. And changing the circumstances where you are and when you're going out with different people and making new friends means that you can't behave like you used to before, because that's how you used to behave in front of other friends, old friends. And so it sort of helps you to get used to the idea of behaving differently and amongst new friends. And friends can help and support you. And once you overcome some of the fears and the things that are holding you back, then it's a lot easier to relate to new friends and make new friends and get more support from new friends.